You got Mac here on Birds 365, and we've got Ed Kracz come jumping into the middle of today's show. Always a pleasure, Ed Kracz. When was the last time you watched a wrestling match?
Let's see. Probably last weekend, Saturday night, and I'll be watching more this weekend when I go to Hershey to watch our boys compete in the state championship.
Yeah.
Oh, you're in the state?
Yeah. State
Yeah,
champ.
individual states.
We're not talking WrestleMania. We're talking state championship at the Giant Center in Hershey.
High school.
Correct? Yeah.
Yeah, got six guys that qualified individually for the tournament.
There's Giant Center. Is that where Wilt got his 100 at the Giant Center in Hershey?
No, it wasn't open then.
Because you've had such success educating the youth and coaching the youth, Ed, does Nick Sirianni call you up and for some tips about how to get connection, accountability? What are we talking? Connect. Do the 5 for me, Ed. I'm stumbling.
Why you really put me on the spot here? Connection, accountability,
competition,
compete,
accountability, football IQ.
Yeah,
that's
4. Yeah. I don't know.
That's
He'd be wise though to give our coaching staff a call. We have some good ones. Teaching these guys how to wrestle, including a former runner-up in the NCAA championship from Lehigh
nice.
Back in 2017. A fantastic coach.
Yeah. Penn State is a dominant college wrestling program. Dominance.
Yeah.
Dominance.
Sure is. Big Tens are this weekend too. But we didn't talk. We're not here to talk wrestling. I could talk wrestling.
I apologize. Got us off on a tangent there. Yeah. Instead, what is Fletcher Cox wrestling with right now? See how I work wrestling back into the conversation?
Well done, Jody.
The decision he has to make as to whether he wants to be an Eagle, wants to play elsewhere, or wants to go on with the rest of his life.
Well, listen, that's a hard act to follow if he were to retire, to follow up Jason Kelsey's farewell speech. I mean, I'm not sure Fletcher would.
That is tough, man.
Nobody can follow that. But, I'm sure he's wrestling with what he wants to do. I mean, it seems like everybody is reporting that he's going to retire. But, Fletcher, in my opinion, he can still play and he can still bring a voice inside a locker room. It's not going to be here, I wouldn't think. But will some team give him a 1-year deal to come in at the same price as the Eagles paid last year, $10 million? There might be a team out there like that, but he's 33 years old. It's a pretty crowded free agent field at defensive tackle right now. But a lot of these D tackles that are available are on the older side, 30-ish. So I think Cox to me is probably going to end up retiring. And listen, he could be one of these guys, one of these November signings if he's able to stay in shape and keep his body physically sound. He could be like a Ndamukong Suh or a Linval Joseph and sign with a team in November and play 8 games and give a team.
What I would do. I said Scott Grayson. We had Scott on earlier. He said the same thing. I agree. Fletcher Cox doesn't want to go through training camp. Come on, why bother? I think that would be a perfect scenario. Now, the one thing Howie spoke, I was surprised when he talked out at the combine, Ed. It was obvious with Kelsey, but it kind of intimated that Fletcher would either play for the Eagles or nobody else because he wants to finish his career with one team. If that's the case, I mean, he sees the writing on the wall. You don't draft a kid in the first round and then draft another kid in the first round. And the year before that, you drafted somebody in the 3rd round. Fletcher looks to his left in that locker room and sees Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis and Milton Williams. That's why Jordan Davis kind of talked about him in the past tense in clean-out day, right?
Yeah.
He knows. He knows the reality of this league.
I don't think we're going to hear from Cox on retirement. I think it's going to be just like we said. He's going to be around in November if he keeps his body in shape and is still willing to play. I don't think he's going to retire. I just said I think he was, but now that I'm thinking about this, I don't think he will because I think he'll try to keep himself available for a November push. And listen, what's to keep Kelsey from possibly doing that if he were to stay in shape? Kelsey.
Oh, you're not going down the Groats Road too, are you? We haven't
seen the last Groats Road? No. I'm just saying it just came to me like, we're talking about Cox doing it. And now what would keep Kelsey?
I think Jason's done. He's already
I do too.
Jumping through flaming tables.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I think Kelsey's done too. I mean, that was a heck of a speech. I don't think he would turn around, do a U-turn, and come back to play. But I'm just saying, this seems to be the trend now with these older players, that they're going to wait until November and take a look at the landscape and see what's out there. And maybe if they're still in shape, they'll come back and play. Kelsey, I don't think will do it. Cox very well could.
Ed, that speech was so epic. You can't go back on that. You can't do that again.
No.
You can't. You just convinced me. He's completely retired.
I buy the general concept of kind of like sorry, not sorry, retired, not retired. Yeah, you can do it. Fletcher could retire tomorrow and then in November go, I'm not retired. I stayed in shape. If someone wants to put in the call, I can still jump back into the fray for somebody. I think that is a possibility for Mr. Cox. So it's going to leave everybody at bay. We're also, maybe this week. The Eagles, do we agree that the Eagles have to proceed as if Fletcher Cox is not going to be here this year?
Oh, I absolutely think that's the way they'll proceed. How he kind of alluded at the combine, and he alluded to a lot of things. John, you mentioned, the Cox will come back if he's going to play anywhere. It's here. He also said James Bradbury is in our plans.
He's under contract. Yeah,
he's under contract. He's still in our plans. But he also said that would they look at a position like D tackle because they have so many young guys and they have taken one in the first round back-to-back years. He said probably not, but that could be a red herring. Maybe he's fallen in love with this Braden Fisk.
That's as close as Howie ever does to saying, look, we just drafted a defensive tackle, just what I said, in the first round, third round. We're not taking a defensive tackle. But, if somebody falls, if somebody they think is a phenomenal player and the valuation is, but they also like Marlon Tuipulotu. Nobody talks about Marlon.
Yeah.
I mean, the one position on defense they don't need is defensive tackle. They need everything else. They really need an edge rusher if Hassan Reddick goes somewhere.
And I think that's the direction they probably go in the draft. Yeah. I'd keep an eye on Chop Robinson from Penn State.
Chop, that's
at 22. If they stay.
I don't love that pick. I don't love that pick.
No.
He's a great athlete.
I think he's one of those combine warriors.
Yeah.
He looked great at the combine.
It's not fair, but that's Penn State's reputation. Now, Micah Parsons kind of blows it up because Micah's a hell of a football player. But Penn State has all these guys. If they were running an Olympic track team or an Olympic, some kind of track and field, they're phenomenal. But I don't know. They're always... something about I Chop Robinson scares me at 22.
Same here.
But it is a position of need, right? I mean, those guys go quick. I mean, that UCLA kid's out there, but he retired at one point in his career because of concussions, like Jalen Phillips did when he came out. But
that's another thing. If you want an edge rusher, you better act quickly because they're going to be gone.
Right,
the top guys. Dallas Turner's going to be top 10, maybe. Then you have Jared Verse. That's Jody's guy.
I love Jared Verse.
He's going to be gone early. And then Latu from UCLA. He's probably not going to make it to 22. So then you're down to Chop, and that's it. Is there anybody else, Jody?
Not in the first round. No. You already ticked off the guys that are going to be there. So you're right. I think they may have to move up to take him if that's the decision they make. All right, here's the decision for Howie Roseman that he doesn't have to make today, but I'm going to make you Howie Roseman for the day, Ed Kracz. So you do have to make the decision today. Is the Eagles starting inside corner, nickel back, on their roster right now for the majority for opening day? Their opening day nickel corner, is he on the roster right now, or is he still to be acquired via the draft or signing?
Yeah, I don't know who it would be at this point. So I'm going to say no, he is not on the roster at this point.
You got everybody else. I got Isaiah Rodgers. I think they made that move specifically for him to be able to replace Avonte Maddox if Maddox was done, and we now know Maddox is done.
Yeah, I mean, but listen, there's some red flags that need to be, looked at here, and one of them is, first of all, he hasn't played for a year, right? Off of the suspension. How is he going to come back, and how is he going to adapt again to the game? And then second, I think he's more of an outside guy. He played on the outside primarily, I think, in Indianapolis. So you know, he
Yeah, he
would be.
did, but let me push back there, Ed. He did because Indianapolis had Kenny Moore, who's one of the best slot corners in football. Now, he's 5'10", 170. If you didn't have Kenny Moore, he'd be playing inside. So I agree with you. They played him outside. Excuse me. I'm all choked up.
Isaiah Rodgers did it for you there, huh, John? I'm glad you brought up Kenny Moore, though.
Thanks for saving me as I try to get thanks for saving me. But yeah, he played on the outside, but he only played on the outside because he was playing well. They didn't have anybody else. If you have a 5'10", 170 guy and I bring him to Ed Kracz, you're going to say, if you don't have a slot corner, I'm going to try him at slot corner.
Yeah,
I'm
try him is the key word. I mean, can he do it? Yeah, he didn't play inside. Yeah, he played outside because Kenny Moore was there. But can he play inside? I mean, yeah, the traits seem to indicate maybe he can, but we don't know. So, you know, those are two big things to me that you're going to have to discover with Isaiah Rodgers once he's reinstated. He still hasn't been reinstated. I assume that'll happen, you know, once the new league year comes or shortly after. But I'm glad you brought up Kenny Moore because I think he could be a guy that Howie Roseman
he's a free agent. Yeah,
he's a free agent. Now, you might say, well, he's on the older side. I think he's 29 years old, maybe 30. But you look back when the Eagles signed Patrick Robinson, he was, I think, 29 or 30 years old. They signed him to a one-year deal. So I think Kenny Moore could be someone to keep an eye on here in free agency for the Eagles. Howie even said he needed to do a better job finding players to play inside slot, and Kenny Moore certainly fits that bill. And you know, I think you could give him a 1, maybe a 2-year deal. I don't know, $7-8 million.
He is a good player.
Kenny. He's a real good player, yeah. And I think that's going to be an area that Howie's going to target. You know, whether it's in the draft or in free agency, and I think Kenny Moore makes a lot of sense. And I'm still not ready to close the book on Avonte Maddox. You know, if he's willing to come back at a reasonable rate, a rate that the Eagles are comfortable with and Maddox is comfortable with, I think Maddox could come back. But, you know, I'm just saying Kenny Moore to me could be the slot corner. Like Jody asked me who's going to be the slot corner to start the year in Brazil. And I think it's going to be Kenny Moore. I think he's going to draw a lot of interest from the Eagles.
All right, let me give you one other possibility since I said on the roster or off the roster, I'd also suck this guy into and I'm not using Rick's, I'm not using Ringo. The only one I'm going to potentially use is, can Zach Mack get back and be a factor in the slot for the Eagles? This particular show happens to like a Mack. So if Zach Mack can come back and flash, or is he just this is a long shot at best for Zach Mack?
Well, he's coming off the ACL, right? So we'll see how
Achilles.
Quickly. Achilles, right? Achilles. Sorry, that's a tough injury to come back from, right? I mean, I know
it is.
So you know, he's young. What is he? 28, maybe now? 27? I'm not.
No, he's younger than that.
Yeah, he's younger than that even.
Yeah, I have to look up. But
well,
he's still young.
Yeah, he could be a guy in the mix for sure. Is he ready to step into a starting role after tearing an Achilles last year? I wouldn't count on that if I'm the Eagles. Certainly he'll be in the mix, and he'll be right out there in special teams again, helping that unit.
He's a good 25. He's 25.
25. Wow. Okay. So yeah, he could certainly be in the mix. But again, I think he's gonna plaster that position based on what happened last year when they lost so many guys, and he's gonna bring some guys in that can do it. And you know, certainly Zach Mack, I forgot about him, to be honest. I mean, he's coming back, and he
got hurt in Baltimore. He's from Baltimore. He got hurt in Baltimore. That's in the preseason. That's a tough blow. And that really started. I think people forget they used like 8 bodies in the slot, Ed, last year when Avonte Maddox got down. But it really went down. But it really started in the preseason when Zach went down because he was scheduled to be the backup.
Right.
So you're already down to the 3rd string. It was a disaster. So, Howie better get that right and better get more of a concrete plan. And maybe Kenny Moore's it.
Here's another name. What about CJ Gardner-Johnson? He played some slot when he was here.
Played it well too.
I mean, he's a playmaker, right? 7 interceptions, and what did he play? 13 games that year, 12 games.
Led the NFL. That was the funniest stat. What did Dak Prescott and CJ Gardner-Johnson have in common that year? They both led the NFL in interceptions, and I forget. Anyway, I forget it. But CJ missed 5 games and led the NFL in interceptions this year. And the Eagles really missed that playmaking ability.
Absolutely.
They need somebody who can make plays in the secondary.
And he gives you that position versatility, right? I mean, he's a guy that you can throw into the slot if you're not playing him at safety, right? So, he could be, when Howie says, hey, I want to bring in more slot corners, I don't want to have happen this year what happened last year. And chances are it won't. I mean, I think that's a kind of a one-off type of situation where you lose that many bodies at one position. But, CJ brings that flexibility that, hey, we can throw him in the slot if we need to. So
now I will say this. CJ is high maintenance guy. Let's be nice. He got his car stolen here. He often bandied back and forth with the fans. He didn't love the fans when he left. Does he want to come back to Philadelphia?
Yeah, good question. I mean, listen, I think he's the kind of guy that just lets stuff go. I don't think he's going to hold any grudges. I think in the moment, CJ's pretty,
steal my car. I'm holding a grudge.
Maybe. I mean, that could have happened anywhere. Let's face it.
That's true.
So I don't know. I don't think he would hold grudges.
Here's my guess on CJGJ. Who's going to pay me the most money?
Well,
he'll work through everything else. If the Eagles give him the best offer, he'll go out and get another.
Well, he's never made big money because that was the whole thing last year.
He's not going to get big money again this year.
No.
You missed the whole season, buddy. You're not getting paid.
No,
but he got paid the best that he could from the Lions on a 1-year make good deal. He's going to go down the same road again. Whoever pays him the most money.
I already got CJ spots. Tennessee Titans with Denard Wilson at Kracz.
That's a possibility.
Defensive coordinator. That's a perfect fit.
Yeah. If the Titans are willing to pay him, like Jody said, he's going to be the hired mercenary. He's going to go to doesn't matter who pays him the money, whoever pays him, he's going to go to, even if it's, Carolina Panthers, I would think. If the Carolina Panthers come in and offer him the most money, he'll probably go to Carolina, even though Carolina doesn't have a good team. I mean, CJ is going to be about the money, and that's fine. A lot of players are that way, but he certainly would fit in Philadelphia, in my opinion, and the Eagles should try to make him a competitive offer.
I know this is Birds 365, not Panthers 365, but I do want to give Dave Canales credit, the new young, probably in over his head coach of the Carolina Panthers. He did come out yesterday and say, yeah, this is not a spot for Russell Wilson. And this is coming off a year where he's got the number 1 pick in the draft, struggled mightily, hedge your bet, bring him. No, he slammed that door shut, and good on him. He's been the coach for like 10 minutes, and he said, I don't want a Super Bowl winning quarterback. I'll stick with my kid who sucked last year. That shows me something. That tells me he's committed to do it a specific way in Carolina. There might be still growing pains, Panther fans, but I like the fact that he did that. Now, here's a question for you, Ed Kracz. Who did I ask this to yesterday about the Eagles' backup quarterback position, John? Somebody was on with us yesterday. I've already forgotten.
I don't know, but it was about Russell.
Yes.
I forget who it was.
All right. If the Philadelphia Eagles realized we threw $5 million away on Marcus Mariota last year, so they not quite ready to make their 6th round draft pick. Was Tanner McKee a 6th?
Tanner McKee, yes, 6th round pick.
The backup, like when we drafted Jalen Hurts, really put him right into the backup position. They're not ready to do that year 2 with Tanner McKee. If Russell Wilson calls Howie Roseman and says, all I've ever heard is the Philadelphia Eagles want Russell Wilson. You wanted me in the draft. You talked to my agent when I was getting traded out of Seattle. I know the situation, circumstances are a little bit different, but, I'm ready for some love, and you've been willing to throw it my way. I'll come in and back up Jalen Hurts for you. You pay me the league minimum because the Denver Broncos are paying me $34 million. So I'll come play for you for the league minimum. Should Howie Roseman even listen to that conversation?
It sounds like a serious question.
Yes, it's a serious question. I'm just making this shit up here, Ed. Of course, it's a serious question.
That is a That is ridiculous. First of all, Russell, as I said yesterday, Russell's going to get a starting job. It might be
Well,
Las
I think so.
Vegas.
Yeah.
It might be Minnesota.
He's not ready to be a backup. And even
No.
if he is, Howie is not going to bring him in to be the backup. No way.
No.
And listen,
and Russell would never accept that, nor should he, by the way. Nor
No.
should he.
No.
I
dismiss that question out of hand, Jody.
Okay,
Mack.
Out of hand.
Whatever
All
that
right.
means.
I had tongue somewhat.
I'm going to give you
You're right, Ed.
Okay.
I'm going to give you less out of hand, but you know you're getting this because the safety market just got a little bit deeper. Denver Broncos just announced they are parting ways with Justin Simmons. Eagles fans are going to be all over that. He's 30 years old, though.
Yeah.
A great player for a long time.
Does he have the crossover with Fangio in Denver?
Yes.
Yes. Oh, okay. Yes. So you got the Fangio. He plays in that scheme. He's great in that scheme. Similar with Eddie Jackson. We got that earlier. Same thing. Fangio was great in his scheme, but he's 30 or about to turn 30. I think the Eagles want to go young. I think they want to go in that 20, coming off that first rookie contract. There's a ton of safeties out there. So
yes.
I've earmarked Cameron Curl, could be Xavier McKinney.
I love Xavier McKinney.
A little bit too expensive. That's why I kind of bend off Xavier McKinney. But there's a lot of safeties. Eagles are going to be able to get a safety at some point.
Maybe two. They might go for two, depending on, how they, who they get and who they go after. But, John, I was thinking about that before I came on, that's been kind of the way they've operated, is they go young players, 26, 27 coming off their first contract. That's kind of been their modus operandi, if you will, in previous years. But you wonder maybe this year, because they have lost some, veteran presence in Jason Kelce, Fletcher Cox, James Bradbury, possibly, some older players. And now it's a pretty young team already that you're counting on. So maybe they would be more inclined to look at someone who's 29, 30 years old on a 1, maybe 2-year deal to kind of bring in some veteran presence, some veteran leadership at some key positions. So I'm not so sure that you can just say, well, they want to go young this year, because that's what they've always done. I think now that the makeup of the team has changed a little bit, and you have more younger guys that are going to step into roles of prominence, they might go down the path of giving a 29 or 30-year-old player a 1 or 2 year deal. And, maybe Simmons fits. I mean, I think, in my opinion, they have to go out and find a safety they can give a 3-year deal to and bring some stability to that back end. We haven't seen that safety stability, I think, since Rodney McLeod and Malcolm Jenkins played those positions for a few years.
And they played into their 30s at a high level.
Right. I mean, you could go, and Xavier McKinney's a young guy. So if you go young, I mean, I think he's 24, 25. He came in, he's from Alabama, a school that the Eagles have grown fond of these past few years. So to me, I would go 3 years, $39 million for a Xavier McKinney because of his age. Now, maybe Simmons, now that,
4-time All-Pro.
Yeah, he's fantastic. I mean, maybe you go 1 year, but you don't want to get into another Kevin Byard situation where you bring in a guy that, is a little worn. Byard was a really good voice in the locker room. He came in and did the best he could, but I don't think he had as much left, obviously, as the Eagles had hoped. And you don't want to get into that situation with Justin Simmons either. And I think at a position like safety where you haven't had that stability, you probably do go a little bit younger. And give a guy a 3-year deal. And to me, McKinney just makes sense. He checks all the boxes that you want in a Vic Fangio defense. And that, to me, would be a guy I would load up on and try to go get for a 3-year deal. Then you have your safeties. Then you have Reed Blankenship, who you can't count on to stay healthy all season. He didn't show it last year. You have Sidney Brown, who knows when he'll be ready to play off the ACL. But now you have guys that you can kind of grow together if you bring in a safety on a 3-year deal.
Yeah, I'm more of a Simmons guy, I guess, than you. If you can get him, I think it would be great. I think he's still at the top of his game. You're right. I think they're going to give him a 3-year deal? Probably not. If it's a 3-year deal, it is. It's a 1-year deal dressed up as a 3-year deal, so I can get the hell out of it. But if they can get him, I still think he's one of the best safeties in the game. I don't know if I can say that.
And he did it with Vic. He did it with Vic.
Yeah, that's a key element of it. All right,
Why did the Broncos? I'm sorry. Why did the Broncos cut him though? What is it? Just a pure
Russell
salary
Wilson. They're taking an $80 million cap hit because of Russell Wilson. They're screwed. They got a clear out guy. They probably asked him to renegotiate, and he said no. And they said, "Well, then we might have to cut you." And he said, "Go ahead and cut me. I'll make the money I want on the free agent market."
Yeah.
And he's probably right.
He's under a huge deal, 4 years, $61 million. So yeah, he was top of the market safety. So he was very expensive. So just what Jody said, they're rebuilding that whole thing. He can still play, but
I think he can play big time. All right, last one for me, Ed Kracz. Now I forget what it was. Now I was thinking about Justin Simmons, and you made me forget the
Justin Simmons throwing us all off.
He did.
Yeah.
Oh, here it is. I know what it is. Yay or nay? This is a yes or no question, Ed Kracz. Will Zach Ertz catch a touchdown pass against the Philadelphia Eagles this year?
Yes.
Ooh.
I will set the over-under at
at a half. It's over under a half. You're going over.
I'm going over for sure. Yeah, he's going to come back, and listen, he's back with Kingsbury. He used him a lot in Arizona when they were together, and I think Zach still has some left in the tank. And I think yes, they played twice this year, and I say Ertz will have a
lot of Philadelphia connection down in Washington now with Josh Harris, Zach Ertz, Brian Johnson. It's going to be more interesting playing the Commanders this year.
Yeah, Zach Ertz certainly makes things more interesting. I don't care about Josh Harris or Brian Johnson. But
you don't care about Josh Harris?
Nah, I mean, he's not on the field. I'm going to see what happens on the field with some of these Philadelphia connections. And Ertz is a guy that's been on the field. And maybe, you mentioned Cameron Curl, maybe Cameron Curl will play against his former mates. And I'll set the over-under at a half of an interception if Curl is on the Eagles when he plays his former mates. And I'll take the over on that too.
All right. Cameron Curl, playmaker.
Yep.
If Cameron Curl gets an interception against the Commanders this year, I think he'll do so in a Giant uniform, because they're going to need a new safety because Xavier McKinney's walking out of there too. Musical chairs of the safeties here in the NFC.
Good point.
Eddie K, good stuff. Good luck with your big match up there in Hershey.
I expect 6 individual titles, Ed. Nothing.
Not going to happen, but listen, top 8 medal in each weight class. So I think we could have.
I shoot for the stars. Why not?
Now wait a minute. If your top 8 get your medal, you got bronze, silver, gold. What? Are we down to plutonium? What kind of medal do you get if you finish?
Plutonium's pretty hot on the on the dark webs, if you will. I guess I would think so. I don't think it's going to be.
Whoa, Ed's trying to get nuclear weapons on the dark web.
Isn't that what plutonium is? Isn't that what Jody said?
I grabbed something off the chart.
I'm not real familiar with my periodic charts.
Copper ore. Do you want me to go
aluminum,
down other
tin?
Aluminum, tin. The tin medal. Tin man gets 7th place, gets you tin. Well, good luck getting your tin this weekend, Eddie.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
I appreciate it. SI Zone and Johnny Max, running mate at Sports Illustrated. Ed Kracz here with us on Birds 365. All right, coming back. You know what we're going to do. Put a bow on the show here on Birds 365.